Fabs and I look into the crystal ball of the 2026 fantasy season to tell you who's going to be the MVP, the top rookie, and so much more.
Dominate your draft and win your league. This is Locked On Fantasy Football with Fabs and Marcus. Fabs brings the expertise, Marcus brings the fire. Together, they'll lead you to the championship. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, Michael Fabiano, and today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use promo code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. Welcome back. On today's show, we are going to give you some predictions for the 2026 season, including the biggest breakout player, the top comeback player in fantasy football. We're also going to give you the biggest bust and the top surprise. But Fabs, I want to start right at the top. If you had to predict right now here on August 19th, who is going to be the fantasy football MVP? I think last year you could have said it was Puka Nacua or Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Christian McCaffrey.
Or Christian McCaffrey. That's going to be your prediction for this year?
No.
Who is your prediction for this season?
In fact, McCaffrey is a prediction that I'll make that's definitely not as positive as being the MVP.
Shocker.
I'm going Bijan. And part of the reason why is because everyone in the industry has jumped on Jahmyr Gibbs, and I am not doing it. I'm not jumping on. You can win with either one of these guys. They're both going to be amazing. But I think Bijan, and you may think this is crazy, I don't think he's met his statistical ceiling yet. He's gotten close, right? Last year, he led the NFL in scrimmage yards with almost 2,300. He rushed for 1,400 yards. Look at the passing numbers that he compiled as a pass catcher. Okay, 820 yards. He was phenomenal, and that is what really is going to separate Bijan from most other running backs. Is that not only is he amazing as a runner, but he's a great pass catcher. What does that also mean? If Atlanta's game script is a neutral one, he's going to be on the field. If it's negative, he's going to be on the field. If it's positive, he's going to be on the field. It doesn't matter. Okay. He only scored 11 touchdowns last year. I think his ceiling is 15, 16, 17, something like that. I think he can get into that sort of stratosphere with touchdowns. And the reason last year he didn't was because of Tyler Algier, right? He had 8 rushing touchdowns last year, and Robinson had a 49% red zone rushing share. I think that's going to go up. They're not going to give the ball to Brian Robinson. They're going to give it to Bijan Robinson. So I think that is where Bijan can be better. Typically, when you're the number one running back in fantasy football, that touchdown number is higher than 11. And I think Algier held him back last year. Obviously, he had 8 touchdowns on the ground. You give half of those to Bijan, and all of a sudden you're talking about a guy who is the number one running back in fantasy football, ahead of Christian McCaffrey, at least from last year's perspective. And I know, well, Atlanta's not going to be good, and Detroit's going to be much better, and I'd rather have Gibbs in a great offense. Okay, that's fine.
Those were going to be all my points I just brought up. Yes.
That's fine. But I mean, Devon Achane was pretty good last year, and he was in a lousy offense. I mean, just because a running back is in a bad offense doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to be very productive from a fantasy perspective when he's versatile. And Bijan's never coming off the field because if Atlanta's down 20 points, they're going to play him because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. If they're ahead, they're going to give him the football to try to milk the clock and keep that lead. If it's a neutral game script, he's going to be on the field. So for me, and I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Don't get me wrong. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I'd rather have Bijan Robinson. And a lot of it is because everyone's jumping on Gibbs. And a lot of times when that happens, things go sideways.
So let me ask you this. When you think about the fantasy football MVP, is that just the person that scores the most points in a fantasy season?
No, it's the person who, well, obviously that's going to be a big part of it. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the most points, but also it's the player who is the most consistent every single week. He's putting up big numbers.
The way that I look at this, maybe we should define this a little better. It's the most valuable player, the player that gives you the biggest advantage week in and week out. why won't it be Brock Bowers, who I think has a chance to catch 120 passes this year, who has a chance to be the Jackson Smith-Njigba in the Raiders offense, who has a chance to give you 7, 8, 9 points more than the median tight end number in your fantasy league. I think Brock Bowers is going to be the fantasy football MVP. That doesn't mean that you should draft him at number 1 or number 2, but if you can get him at the top of the second round, middle part of the second round, I think he's going to be our most valuable player.
So in his rookie year, which was phenomenal, it was one of the great rookie years of all time for a tight end or a receiver. Still finished 18th in points.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about points. I'm talking about the most valuable player.
I get it. I mean, Trey McBride was only 10 points behind him. So I don't know. I totally understand your point. I get it. I just don't agree with it. I mean, like the MVP.
Well, we're going into year 3 of Brock Bowers with a much better offense.
Again, what I'm saying is that the MVP in fantasy, it's about like, does he help you win? Right. I mean, just like in sports, does this guy help you win? I can argue right now that Aaron Judge is still the MVP because the Yankees have gone sideways without him. When they have him, the offense is a heck of a lot better. But if you take Brock Bowers off of your fantasy team, you can more easily replace him than replacing Bijan Robinson. Because for me, and listen, Brock Bowers is amazing, but tight end, and I know it's not a great position, I can replace Brock Bowers with, I don't know, Jake Ferguson, Isaiah Likely. Not terrible. Who am I going to replace Bijan with? Brian Robinson? I mean, sure. The drop-off is going to be massive statistically. So just to me, and I understand your point, the MVP has got to be in the top 5 in scoring. It doesn't have to be number 1. It got to be top 5. And for me, Bijan is going to be top 5, and he could be top 3. And who knows, maybe he'll be number 1. Last year, it was Christian McCaffrey. I don't think that's going to happen again with McCaffrey this year.
All right, let's go to top rookie. Who is going to be your top rookie for the 2026 fantasy football season?
This was one of the worst rookie classes from a fantasy perspective that I can remember. So it's easily Jeremiyah Love. But when LaFleur came out and said, well, he doesn't need surgery, and I'm like, wait a minute. Was there a chance he needed surgery? Like what? Right. I started to freak out a little bit. I don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1. Nobody does, which means that you're going to want to draft Tyler Algier, and you may have to play Algier for a week or 2. But regardless, I think Love is going to be an absolute stud once he's healthy. Okay. I mean, you look at the numbers that he put up at Notre Dame, which were amazing, right? I mean, 21 total touchdowns, over 1,600 total yards. He only did it in 12 games. And the good thing about Love is that, like, you don't need him to touch the ball 25 times a game for him to produce. Okay. He averaged nearly 7 yards per carry in the last 2 years in college. He also is a guy who's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. All of my concern is, okay, the high ankle, because you hear high ankle and you freak out. The good news is that, like we've said, he's got a few weeks before the regular season begins. So do they sit him down in week 1 and you got to play Algier? That's possible. But I don't know that there's a contender with Jeremiyah Love if he's healthy. Like you tell me. Carnell Tate? I love Jadarian Price, but I don't know if Seattle's going to give him an opportunity to be the number 1 rookie. Who else is out there? I mean, Kenyon Sadiq? No. I think it's Love, and it's probably not close. What do you think?
Man, it's very infrequently that we have the top rookie that gets drafted at 101, like in our rookie drafts, ends up becoming the top rookie that year. It's almost always somebody that's going a little bit later or a surprise guy. And that's why I'm going with Deshaun Stribling for the San Francisco 49ers. I just think
just exploded.
Well, I think, okay, if you go through the receivers, like Mekhi Lemon's already hurt. It seems like Dontavian Wicks has passed him.
Jordan Tyson ahead of Carnell Tate. I
love Carnell Tate, but I just think that environment in San Francisco is going to be way more fantasy friendly. I prefer Tate long-term to Stribling. But Stribling's been awesome. And Mike Evans just can't even get through a practice without something tightening up on him. And nobody else in that passing game you trust at all. I just won't be surprised if Stribling gets 100 targets, and he ends up becoming our top guy. So I'm taking Stribling.
I think you're getting cute. I think you're getting cute, Mosher. I think you're getting cute.
I might be. I might. This is not me trying to be contrarian. I think I just really love Stribling's talent and his situation, and he's just been awesome in all of training camp. And Babs, will it surprise you if we get to week 1 and he has like 8 catches for 75 yards? And maybe he's not super efficient, but it's like, okay, now he's a guy that's going to be a weekly flex player for you every single week moving forward, because that's honestly what I'm kind of expecting here.
Listen, man, I mean, you may want to put a few dollars down on that wager just to have a little bit of fun. I mean, I think there's 4 or 5 wide receivers who could statistically be better than him. Just first year players. I know Lemon's been hurt. We all obviously know that there's been issues with Jordan.
JC Concepcion doesn't have a quarterback. Denzel Boston is competing with Concepcion. Andy doesn't have a quarterback. Cardell Tate's offensive line looks atrocious right now.
Do you necessarily need a great quarterback to be Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback where Michael Wilson finished in the top 10 last year. Jacoby Brissett, you don't need a great quarterback. You just need a guy who's going to throw the ball to you.
Well, I disagree. Case in point, JJ McCarthy last year. Let's talk about.
Yeah, but JJ McCarthy was like the worst ever, without question.
We might be getting there in Cleveland. Let's talk about some of the biggest breakout candidates for the 2026 season. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Kalshi. Before the season even kicks off, everyone is making predictions. Who's going to win the division? Who's going to make it to the playoffs? Who is going to lift the trophy at the end of the season? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. Right before we jumped on the show, I wanted to go see what the Cowboys were trading at to win the NFC East. And right now it's at about a 36% probability, meaning a $100 trade would pay out like roughly $265, which I absolutely like. I'm buying all of the hype with the Dallas Cowboys. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use promo code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We are giving you some of our best predictions for the 2026 fantasy football season. And let's go to breakouts. Who is going to be your biggest breakout player for this year?
I'm sticking with Emeka Egbuka. I know, he's got the toe thing going on. I'm hoping that it's not something that's overly serious. I know when we hear toe and we think of Dion and we're like, oh no, I'm not freaked out yet. I am sticking with Egbuka. Last year, I just can't forget the numbers that he put up last year through his first 5 games. I mean, he scored 20 plus points 3 times. He was one of the best wide receivers in fantasy football. Yeah, things went downhill from there. And then, and for a lot of reasons, he got dinged. Mike Evans came back. Chris Godwin came back. Jalen McMillan came back. Mike Evans is gone now. And Egbuka had 127 targets last year as a rookie. And that was with Evans playing for part of the year. Now imagine Evans is not there. Think about what Egbuka could do with like 140 or 150 targets in this offense, right? And then when you also look at his targets per route run last year, that rate was 24%. I feel like he is easily the #1 option in the passing game for Baker Mayfield. He's going to emerge as the best offensive threat in Tampa Bay right now. And I understand you could talk about Bucky Irving, who we all have some question marks about. I don't think there's any question. It's Egbuka. And it's Egbuka over Chris Godwin as well. And I have said it before and I'll say it again. I think he's the next Jackson Smith and Jigba. Does that mean that he's going to be the wide receiver 3 this year? No. Could he be the wide receiver 8 or 9? Absolutely. As long as the availability for week 1 and week 2, et cetera, is not brought into question, which Todd Bowles kind of did earlier.
Yeah.
As long as he's healthy, I think it's Egbuka. If the toe becomes an issue, I might move that to Tet McMillan. But the other guy that I would have brought up is Luther Burden, and he's hurt too. So, I feel like as fantasy analysts, Marcus, we need to have like a degree in medicine and orthopedics now, because like everyone's hurt this freaking August. It's insane.
Yeah, and I cover the Cowboys for Locked On Cowboys, and there was a time where I felt like I needed to be like an attorney, a defense lawyer. I mean, just a million different things.
Was that back in like the White House days?
Oh, the Zeke days. But all right, I agree with you on Egbuka. I've been drafting Egbuka so aggressively above ADP all off season long. But I got to be honest, this toe thing scares me. Like, is it something that's going to just limit him all year? We saw him last year when he was dealing with a hamstring injury. The production like really dropped off. And it reminds me a little bit of when Julio Jones was healthy. There was not a better receiver in football. But when Julio Jones was on the injury report, the production was like cut in half every single week. And I'm worried that's going to be Egbuka, where if he's dealing with some kind of toe or ankle or hamstring injury, we just can't trust him. And I'm just a little concerned, but I think in a vacuum, if he's healthy, he could be a threat to lead the league in targets and receptions this year. Like, he's got that talent.
100%. And it's too early to like, I think, put up that big flashing red light, when it comes to Egbuka. And again, you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. All the fantasy people out there are not doctors. I will reach out to an orthopedic doctor, an actual doctor, if I have a question about a player where I'm super concerned, and I'm not at that point yet. With Egbuka, we've still got a few weeks until the start of the regular season. Let's hope that thing gets healthy. He's back on the field and good to go.
All right, let's talk about your top comeback player for the 2026 season. There's a lot of candidates, whether it's Patrick Mahomes. You could go with Brock Bowers if you're calling him a comeback candidate at tight end. Who do you have?
I mean, it's Justin Jefferson, man.
Wait, what is he coming back from?
What is he coming back from? Being unstartable in the
that was the
half
layup
of,
of all layups. It just let me take that back. Is it just that you think he's going to go from being a guy that was like a wide receiver 30 last year to back to being a top 5 fantasy receiver?
Top 5, top 8, yes. Listen, and everyone, and I know people in the comments are like, "Oh, Fabs hates JJ McCarthy." Listen, you should hate him too in fantasy, because he literally neutered your number 1 overall pick, your top wide receiver, whatever the case may be, with Justin Jefferson last year. Absolutely, positively neutered this guy statistically. Again, look at the history. All right. Justin Jefferson playing with an assortment of quarterbacks in his first 5 years. It was mostly Cousins and Darnold and Sam Darnold. I mean, he never averaged fewer than 17.1 points per game. Okay. He averaged over 19 points per game 3 times. He was elite. Last year, he averaged 11 points per game. What was different? JJ McCarthy. Now you bring in Kyler Murray. And I know that there are some question marks about Kyler Murray. I get it. I'm not gonna come out and say that this guy is 100% going to hit, but he is a hell of a lot better than McCarthy. He has supported a number 1 wide receiver in the past. Remember DeAndre Hopkins back, I believe it was like in 2020, he had 115 catches with Murray throwing him the football. And even though Jefferson had bad numbers last year from a fantasy perspective, he still had 84 catches. I think the real issue is that he didn't score any touchdowns. And when you also look at McCarthy, like he's not – McCarthy basically did what every other cornerback in the National Football League has not been able to do, which is stop Jefferson statistically. Murray can extend plays. Murray can get away from pressure. He could give his receivers extra time to beat their defensive backfield downfield, right? He is a really good fit for Jefferson, at least in my opinion. So, and Marcus may agree or disagree, but this is a win for all of the Vikings wide receivers, including Jefferson and Addison and Jennings and whoever else you want to throw in there. But I feel a lot more comfortable drafting Justin Jefferson than I did starting him last year, because last year in the second half of the year, you almost had to play him because of who he was. He killed you. If you had Justin Jefferson last year and you went to the championship, I mean, kudos to you, because I don't think that happened very often.
I have some slight concerns about Kyler Murray, not as a fantasy quarterback, but getting Justin Jefferson the ball, just because like slant routes and dig routes are not the best balls that Kyler Murray throws. And that's where a lot of Jefferson's production has come in the past, off of play action. But Kyler Murray is a significantly better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer. And he has different strengths. He's pretty good at throwing the ball down the field. Maybe we see more downfield targets for Jefferson. So I think it's a little bit of a wash. Having said that, I don't have him in that tier of Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua.
No, of course not.
And I have Amon-Ra St. Brown and CeeDee Lamb ahead of him. However, I still think Justin Jefferson is somebody that should be going at the tail end of the first round of your drafts. And if he's even close to that this year, he's going to be the top comeback player. So I'm on board here.
Yeah. Again, I mean, you could put Bowers in that mix because he got hurt too. I think that's a good call as well. But when I hear comeback player of the year, like Justin Jefferson just is the first name that bounces into my mind. And I think he bounces back and he's top 8, top 10 at worst. Assuming that we don't see J.J. McCarthy on the field this season, and not for nothing, but I mean, Carson Wentz may be the QB2, and who knows, maybe the Vikings decide that they're going to move on from McCarthy and potentially
might be the best
in the season. Who knows?
It might be the best outcome for both parties, right? Give McCarthy a new start, give him a chance to be back somewhere else.
He has so much stink on him, especially among Minnesotians. Is that how you would call them? Vikings fans don't like JJ McCarthy. So it would be, it's almost like the Yankees with Anthony Volpe. Although, Volpe obviously is better, but like just the fans don't like him. A fresh start would be a good idea.
I look at like Mac Jones, who went from the Patriots to Jacksonville to San Francisco. Now he's the backup for Brock Purdy right now, but I think he needed a change of scenery. And Mac Jones played really well last year under Kyle Shanahan.
He did.
So maybe McCarthy could benefit from going somewhere else. All right, let's talk about the top bust for the 2026 fantasy football season. We'll tell you who they might be next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There are more live events than ever we're seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel way harder than it should. And that's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple, with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities to help you get to the events that you want to without the usual hassle. I know for me, I'm already looking at the NFL schedule, trying to figure out which games I want to go to. And Game Time has been so clutch getting me those tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code Locked On for $20 off, and download the Game Time app today. Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. All right, Fabs, I know exactly where you're going on this one, but I'm going to tee you up anyway. Who is going to be the top fantasy bust for the 2026 season?
First off, I wanted to find this because a bust is not a player who you draft in the middle rounds or the late rounds. It is a guy who costs you a very prominent draft pick. And when I look at round 1 and all the players that are in that round, the guy that sticks out like a sore thumb is Christian McCaffrey. And and again, I've said it before. I was wrong last year. 100% wrong. I admit it. I was wrong about him. 450 touches though. 30 years old. Okay. He's played back-to-back full seasons once since 2020. He's already on the injury report in Niners practice with tightness. And Kyle Shanahan has already come out and said he actually does have some tightness. It's not contractual because there were some kind of reports out there that might be like a hold in kind of situation. I just worry about the workload. I worry about what's going on in San Francisco when you have a team that, I mean, geez Louise, everyone's hurt. And I posted this on X last week and I got some pushback on it, but and I want to throw this to you. Is there a player in San Francisco's offense that you feel good about drafting without some sort of dip, some sort of discount? And I'm not talking about Bijan Stribling because he's like a 9th or 10th round pick. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, Mike Evans. I'm talking about George Kittle. I'm talking about Brock Purdy. I'm talking about Christian McCaffrey. Is there a player that, okay, Christian McCaffrey is on the board. I got the 4th overall pick, the 5th, 6th. I feel comfortable taking him. Is there one player for the Niners, Marcus, that you feel comfortable drafting him at the height of his ADP?
Evans is probably the only one. And the reason for Evans is
and I'm surprised you say that because Evans has been banged up all at camp and practice.
I know. Just because I still think the ADP is reasonable. And I think if he's healthy, he's going to be a target hog in this offense. I don't think you have to go out and spend a high pick on Mike Evans. But McCaffrey is somebody that I like more in the back end of the first round. Kittle is somebody that I'm just avoiding.
But he's not going to be there in the back end of the first round.
So I have not been drafting a lot of Christian McCaffrey. And it's not because I haven't wanted to. It's just I prefer at that point some of the receivers over McCaffrey. And it seems like there's always somebody in my drafts that's willing to take McCaffrey 1 or 2 spots higher than I'm willing to. So I haven't had a bunch of them yet.
And I have not started doing a ton of my seasonals. I'm in a couple of best balls right now. I've done a bunch of those already. And I don't have any Christian McCaffrey just yet. And there was a chopped league that I'm doing that started last week. And I think I had maybe the 8th or 9th overall pick. Maybe it was a little bit later. And I was afraid that McCaffrey was going to fall to me and I had to make a decision on him. He ended up going 1 spot before me. And then I took Justin Jefferson. Mike Evans right now, based on ADP data, is the wide receiver 27. He's coming off the board 58th overall. He's a 33-year-old wide receiver going to a different team.
I know.
Even that is scary. That's why I'm talking about with the dip. Okay. And the same thing with Purdy. If McCaffrey,
I don't mind Purdy. Actually, I've been taking a little bit of Purdy.
Okay, but if McCaffrey's dinged, and I like Purdy too, don't get me wrong. If McCaffrey's dinged and he doesn't have Evans and his top wide receiver is Deebo Samuel, who's not what he used to be, and a rookie in Stribling and George Kittle coming off an Achilles and DeMarcus Robinson. That's going to affect Brock Purdy too. And that's why I'm worried about it. Even though the Niners offense is always ridiculously efficient,
that's what
I just worry about this thing completely falling apart.
And maybe we see more of Brock Purdy scrambling, a little bit like Patrick Mahomes last year, where once the weapons really tailed off, we saw more rushing from Mahomes. Maybe we see it more from Purdy, although I don't know, because Kyle Shanahan probably doesn't want to see Purdy get banged up again like he did last year.
So, but you're on board with me with McCaffrey, though. Is it give me a bigger bust, a bigger potential bust than the number 1 player in fantasy football last year? Who is
Omarion Hampton? Omarion Hampton.
Okay. He's
a top 15 pick. You're already seeing the offensive line injuries mount up with the Chargers. Tyler Biadasz, their center, suffered a serious leg injury yesterday during practice. Rashawn Slater's not practicing. We heard Mike McDaniel said that he's going to ride the hot hand. I just worry about Hampton a little bit. It's not that I wouldn't take Hampton, but I wouldn't take him where his ADP is at right now. That's the guy that I'm avoiding at all costs.
Wow. Okay. Listen, I understand it. And, the whole Mike McDaniel's coming out with Keaton Mitchell's going to play and, Vidal Sassoon's going to play. I just can't stop saying Vidal Sassoon. I don't know why. People are like, what the hell is Vidal Sassoon? It's Kamani Vidal. Go back in the 80s and look at Vidal Sassoon. Anyways, I got to be honest with you. When you look at the top, say 15 running backs, and we'll look at it based on ADP, I have 100% confidence in Gibbs. I have 100% confidence in Bijan. In McCaffrey, no. Jonathan Taylor is not scoring 20 touchdowns again. I feel confident in James Cook. Is Ashton Genty a lock to be great? No.
I feel better
about him. Is A-Chan a lock to be the same guy he was last year? No. Saquon Barkley was not great last year. Omarion Hampton, to your point, can Kenneth Walker avoid injuries? If he can, he'll be fantastic. Derrick Henry's, I know he's a unicorn, but he's not young. Jeremiyah Love's got a high ankle right now. Like Kyron Williams, there's always a threat of Blake Corum. Breece Hall's got a
It's
groin.
scary.
Think about it. there, what did I say? 3 guys maybe that I'm like, yeah. I mean, I don't have one concern about, this player. There's not that many running backs that there's not concerns for.
Let me give you one. And this is a player that I have been drafting in every single league. And we've got a couple drafts coming up together. So I hesitate to even tell you this.
What would you stop it? Come on now, buddy.
What's the knock on Javonte Williams?
The knock on Javonte?
Yeah, if you're going to, what's the big flaw?
I don't think durability is a knock on Javonte Williams.
No, I'm just saying in general, why is Javonte Williams being drafted lower than guys like Breece Hall and Kyren Williams?
I think probably because he's had one really good year in his career and that's it. And he's not as young as a Breece Hall, for example.
Yeah, but I just think he's in an offense that's going to score 1 million points. The Cowboys love to run the ball inside the 5-yard line, and there's no other running back on the roster that's going to take touches away from him.
Listen. I have Javonte Williams ranked ahead of Breece Hall, brother. So you're preaching to the choir.
I'm just that's the running back that you. I'm not saying to go out and make him your RB1, but if you have the number 1 or number 2 pick and you get Bijan Robinson, Javonte Williams is the absolute perfect RB2 that you can target in the 3rd or 4th round. Yeah. I absolutely love that strategy.
100% on board with you. And again, I whiffed on that last year. I was in such a hatred of Jerry Jones' state of mind that I didn't even think of Javonte.
I get it.
Because they had Miles Sanders bringing in. I'm thinking come on, Miles Sanders. But
actually, Miles Sanders played well before he got hurt. But that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every single day. Make sure you check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. We are going to be doing a fantasy football league for listeners of this show. Fabs, tell the people how they can get involved in that.
I've posted on all of my social media platforms. So all you need to do, and a lot of people have already done it, is like the program, subscribe the program, YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, say hello, give us a little love, and you will be entered into the pile of players out there who are going to potentially play in a league with the 2 of us knuckleheads. So we've already got a lot of people who have done that, and thank you so much for doing it. We've still got time. We are going to announce the winners next week, and then we'll have our draft probably on Sleeper at some point in the beginning of September. And if you win, guess what? Not only do you get bragging rights, you get a Trophy Smack belt.
Heck yeah. It's going to be awesome. That's Fabs. I'm Marcus. We'll see you next time.